Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day now on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe, bell notification, and obviously share on your socials any episodes we put up and support podcasting. Spotify for audio versions of the show. And if you'd like to contact us, you'll get us on Twitter at _upper_tier, or you'll get us on Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier. We are there all day, every day. Darren, how we doing, my man?
Or if you're a good looking female, you get us on 087. No. I'm only
hashtag. You'll also get us on Twitter and on TikTok. Keep forgetting about TikTok as well. We're on TikTok, the Upper Tier Podcast. Don't forget to head over to TikTok. We're dropping some fun videos over there all the time. This is your Champions League round of 16 preview. Safe to say some interesting results there the other night. So let's get into this. Just before we do actually get into this, I'd like to let people know we will be live on YouTube tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., bringing you live coverage of the draw and our own reaction to it. So if you want to join us over there, Man United, Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea fans, head over there. We'll be interacting in the chat. Darren will be giving people socks as usual, and we will be having a lot of fun. Let's get into this Champions League round of 16 draw preview. As we know, teams who have played in the group to the stage can't be drawn against each other. We also know that you can't be drawn from the same nationality, which makes it very interesting. Yes, absolutely. The ties are going to be over 2 legs, and I believe no away goals count anymore. So we'll go to extra time and to penalties. We'll go down through the 2 groups of teams shortly. Just the first legs are scheduled for the 15th, 16th, 22nd and 23rd of February, with the second legs being played on the 8th, 9th, 15th and 16th of March. 16th of March is always a good one for us because we have the next day off. It's Paddy's Day, so not too bad. And all the kickoffs are 8 p.m. The draw for the quarterfinals and semi-finals is Friday, the 18th of March. Right after Paddy's Day, we'll be hungover, but we will be, of course, live.
We will be live.
Absolutely. And we will be bringing you right after Christmas along all the way to the road to St. Petersburg in May 28th. Let's get in. Let's have a look at some of these teams, because it was interesting the way it panned out in the end. Chelsea looked like they were going to top the group, but it all went suddenly wrong in the latter stages. But the confirmed group winners seeded: Ajax from the Netherlands, Bayern from Germany, Liverpool from England, Man City and Man United both from England, Real Madrid for Spain, Juventus from Italy and Lille from France. The confirmed group runners-up unseeded: Atletico from Spain, Inter Milan from Italy, PSG from France, Sporting from Portugal, Chelsea from England, Benfica from Portugal and Villarreal rounding it out from Spain. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think there wasn't many massive surprises. Obviously, you know, the 2 omissions when you look at it on paper straight away is Dortmund and Barca, isn't it? You know, I think we'd all like to see Haaland over 2 legs against most teams. And then obviously Barca with the history and stuff like that. But Barca just aren't the team that they have been over the last number of years. You know, it's going to be a big rebuild there for Barca. You know, they struggled to get out of the blocks, and that slow start kind of bit them on the arse at the end, because they had that away game in Bayern to finish off the group with, you know.
I just want to say for our Austrian fans as well, FC Salzburg. I miss Salzburg as one of the teams as well, unseeded. So just thought I'd correct that before someone comes into the comments and starts
listening
correcting
from
us.
The Alps. Yeah. All the Austrians listening, skiing down the ski slopes, listening to our podcast. Thanks, lads.
Hopefully your Wi-Fi connection is good.
Yeah.
But if it isn't, you can go over to Spotify and get the audio versions of the show. Not a problem. I had a look at the potential opponents for each of the 4 English teams, of course, right?
Yeah.
Starting with your own team, Man United. Looking at PSG, Atletico, Sporting, Inter Milan, Benfica, and Salzburg.
Yeah, you know, you're happy with probably 4 of those, aren't you?
I would have thought so, yeah.
I think the only 2 you maybe don't want now, when I say don't want them, you're going to have to beat good teams on the way to this final anyway. And you never know, like, there's teams in Europe, they have a winter break and stuff. maybe they could be caught cold, that early to mid-February game, and it might be enough to give you a little foothold into the next round. But other than PSG and maybe Atletico, and even Atletico, I don't think they're the team they were in the last number of years. I think PSG are the ones you want to avoid. I think Atletico would make it very difficult. But of the other four, I think I'd be happy with any of them, to be honest with you. Yeah. You've got to back yourselves against teams like that. If we can't, look at those four teams and think we're going to beat them, we shouldn't be playing in the competition,
Yeah, and it's safe to say by the time February rolls around as well, Ralph Rangnick will have his stamp put on the team at that stage. You'll know his style of play. He'll know who his players are and who his starting 11 is by that stage. You won't be testing the waters with different players and maybe different formations. So it'll be pretty settled at that stage, I'd imagine, bar injuries or COVID or anything.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and you might have, we've still got Varane and Pogba who are out injured at the minute. So you'd have to hope at that stage they're going to be back and in action and stuff like that. And they can be big players under the new manager, I think,
Although even with Varane missing, a couple of clean sheets already under Rangnick.
Yeah, and I just think it was something. I actually spoke to another member of the podcast today. I was speaking to Mark, Mark Hogan, and they look a little more. There's a little more structure. Everybody's not at 6s and 7s as much. Now, listen, we played Norwich and Palace. We can't go around, as if we just, closed out, Liverpool and City, because we haven't. We know what happened in those two games.
And Norwich gave you a good game.
And Norwich gave us a good game, like De Gea makes 2 good saves. He got man of the match for 2 good saves. You're kind of thinking, okay. But like, I did like a number of the things that I saw. We were watching it live last night, obviously, and there's a much better line. There's a much tighter line. There's not as much space in between, right back to centre back, centre back to centre back, centre back to left back. Everything's a lot more compact, which gives less space for people to get through and for balls to get through. And obviously, I think I actually thought Scott McTominay had a reasonable game yesterday, but defensively rather than offensively. I think from United's point of view, we can see how that midfield too has been split now. McTominay is very much the one that sits, and Fred is the one who goes, presses, and if he wins it, he's trying to play little balls here and there, which is something we didn't maybe see on our Solskjaer. We saw 2 lads sit and then 2 lads try and go at times, and it just wasn't. Whereas now it looks like everybody knows what their job is. McTominay's not pressing high up the pitch. He's not. That's not what he's been commissioned to do. Yeah. Fred has been commissioned to do that, and he's a little more creative than McTominay. And then obviously you've got McTominay who's there to sit and try and dictate the pace of play and stuff like that. I don't think it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think in the couple of games we've had, you can see that there's changes afoot,
The one thing I've noticed is I think it's very, very clear what now needs to be fixed in terms of what he's trying to do. Whereas I think under Solskjaer, I think it got so much on top of him, he didn't know what to fix and he was chopping and changing everything, trying to find a formula. I think now Rangnick knows what his formula is, and he's trying to pick the pieces of who fits into each section of that formula. And he's very quickly developing a picture of what he'll potentially need to do in the January window and what else he needs to move around potentially.
Well, I mean, the big call is the 2 fullbacks, obviously, isn't it? I know we go into a lot of games with Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and all of a sudden he's gone, sorry lads, not at the minute. You don't bring the quality maybe going forward, or the delivery, or the energy levels that I would expect from me fullbacks.
Isn't it amazing when a different set of eyes goes in there? Because prior to that, with Ollie in there, Shaw would have been a shoe-in on the team sheet. Absolutely. And now he's looking at a different way. And Dalot would have been
looking at all.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see the other day how exposed Wan-Bissaka was. Actually, he had a terrible game.
He had a very poor game against Jimmy Savile on Wednesday night, obviously. And it was really, really noticeable how many times he got caught out of position where he was just a couple of steps ahead of that line, which was trying to be created. And also, when he did get it, the amount of times he gave the ball away, and we ended up back under the pressure. And you're going, because Rangnick was obviously, he had told the boys, go direct, get it long, put it into the channels, get guys turned, start running, see if you can press higher, then nick it back. That's the way he's going to play the game. Yeah. And I think that's something that Tellez and Dalot look a little more comfortable doing. Yeah. Shaw maybe wants to wants to give the ball inside and then go back outside, and he wants to maintain possession while, you know, structurally getting up the pitch. Whereas, you know, I think Rangnick wants them to be a little more aggressive with the way they put the ball forward and how quickly they get it forward, you know?
Yeah, it's a mentality and a thinking, really, isn't it? That has to be sort of overcome. Let's have a look at Man City here. Man City potentially have Atletico, Sporting, Inter, Benfica, Villarreal, and Salzburg. I think apart from Atletico Madrid, I don't see anyone giving them any sort of a challenge, really. I mean,
and to be honest with you, I don't even see Atletico giving them a game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so we're looking at them coasting into the quarters.
I think City are sailing through to that next round. Yeah, absolutely.
Chelsea is an interesting one for me, you know, and I'm sure we get Ian's thoughts on the matchup tomorrow night as well. But they have a really, really tough draw. Ajax, Real Madrid.
It was just really bad game management, which is something that you would have always said that Tuchel's side, the game management was always there. Like, for them to concede that very late goal, you know, at Zenit, and all of a sudden cough up the seeding, and now face what they face. So you go on through it for me there. Yeah,
it's Ajax, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Lille. Now, they have a 25% chance of getting Lille, but the likelihood in the other 75%, it's Ajax, Real, and Bayern. That's a really, really tough draw for them. Now, that's not to say that they haven't got the quality or the talent to beat any of those teams. I believe they do. Bayern would be a tough one, I'd say. But of the other two, I think they'd be okay against Real, even though Real have a massive resurgence at the moment under Ancelotti. They're looking really good. Ajax would be kind of an interesting one to see Ten Hag up against Tuchel. He's doing really good stuff there as well. They put Dortmund to the sword a couple of times, and, you know, that's impressive if you can do that, especially with the boy Haaland there and Jude Bellingham. But that's a tough one for Chelsea, isn't it? And at the moment, they're going through a bit of a patch at the moment where they're giving up goals. They were lucky yesterday against Leeds to get that late penalty, only for Klick had a moment of madness. I would have thought Leeds would be full value for the draw yesterday. And it wasn't so much in terms of penalties, but it was the goal they gave away to the young lad who came on, Gerhardt, I think was his name. He took his goal lovely. And also, I'm looking at Rudiger at the moment, and you've brought Rudiger up in conversations before. He's a bit of a loose cannon, isn't he? Like, you've seen it there yesterday again, where he's very offensive in his thinking. At times he reminds me of Joel Matip in terms of going forward and wanting to push forward. At times you nearly think he's a midfielder. But I thought he had vacated the space there yesterday to cough up the opportunity as well. And even running the length of the pitch really to get involved on that fracas. He seems to be the one who wants to throw down as quickly as possible, which he could be in trouble for going forward if it gets reported.
There's no need for a centre-back to be at that. You know what I mean? Even in a trade, like, there's just no necessity for your centre-back to try and be that high up the pitch and also to be that aggressive. Like, you look at Thiago Silva and how his lack of aggression at times helps him, because he doesn't overcommit or become overzealous going for balls that he knows are, you know, they're 50-50 balls. Does he need to go for a 50-50? Not necessarily, you know, because
there's a calmness to him, isn't there, instead of this chaos.
Right. And that's and this is something I said about, you know, Rudiger for a long time. And I know, listen, they're talking about him being you know, maybe leaving Chelsea with the opportunity in January to speak to other teams in Europe and stuff like this. And there's big money been bandied about and massive figures.
400,000, yeah, crazy money.
This is crazy money for Antonio Rudiger.
And it's no disrespect to him either, because he is a top player. There's no doubt about it. But 400,000 is a lot of money.
Listen, there's a lot on 400,000 for a centre back. You know, there really is. How many players could you legitimately say in the centre back position are worth 400,000? To my mind, all of
the Liverpool ones. But apart from that,
I can definitely tell you Virgil, right? And if I was going to, and you're gonna laugh at me when I say this, if I was going to throw somebody else in the bracket, right? And I'd actually throw your boy Kanate in there. And I said this to you after, when I came home from the United Liverpool game, the 5-0, and you were like, who was unbelievable? And I was like, Konate was. You know, I just think he looks like he has absolutely everything. You know, and it might be a little bit of a slow play while he's getting used to the pace of the Premier League and stuff like that. Yeah. But I really feel the kid has an awful lot. He's quick, he's agile, he's built like a brick shit house. He reads the game well. He doesn't get flustered. You know, I just think to myself of what's coming up, of the Upameccanos, of the Delicts, of the Konates. You know, he looks the best of the bunch for me, if I'm honest.
Yeah, certainly the other night against AC Milan, himself and Nat Phillips made Zlatan Ibrahimovic look very, very ordinary, without a shadow of a doubt. He was basically a spectator for most of the show. And I know people will turn around and say, well, it's not the Milan of old. We know it's not the Milan of old, but the top of Serie A. You know, so you can't just dismiss it out of hand.
They are. That's a sad indictment of Serie A. Yeah. Serie A, like, I mean, at this stage, you know, fucking Greystones Wanderers would give them a game. Yeah. Serie A is absolutely piss poor. And that's where I feel like Chelsea have really let themselves down, that they were in a group where, you know, Malmo, Zenit, and a very, very poor Juventus shouldn't have laid a glove on them. Yeah. And they finished in second place and given themselves a tougher draw all the way through now.
How, I mean, it's hard to know really, isn't it? They're the defending champions as well. And they'll tell you, and I'm sure they'll turn around and tell you, well, look, if you want to win this tournament, you're going to have to beat big teams on the way. Whether it's round of 16 or the final 8 or the semis or whatever it is, you're going to come up against someone tough eventually. But I just thought, as you said as well, the way they coughed up that top of the table or top of the group, and looking at their form at the moment, the way they're conceding goals and stuff like that. Now, I know Tuchel will have plenty of time to get players back, similar to Rangnick. So they should be firing on all cylinders come February, shouldn't they? I
don't know if there looks like there's a very small bit of complacency creeping in at Chelsea. Now, I would be surprised, but I don't know whether they just started to smell themselves and go, we're all right here, you know? And I don't like to see that from teams. Like, I don't see that from Liverpool, and I don't see that from Man City, even though, again, they're up in that kind of top 3 of the big teams in England at the minute, you know, the teams that are dominating the league, you know.
What do you mean? This is a complacency that's coming in terms of, like, we're just going to rock up and win.
I think so. I think there's a little element of that.
Kante is massive, isn't he?
I think they're looking around the dressing room with each other. They're going, yeah, we've got way more than the other boys do. And maybe that's affecting how they're putting things into operation when they get out there. You know, yes, Kante. Listen, they are missing players, and we're not saying they're not missing players, and we're not pushing that under the carpet. They are missing players, absolutely. And if you're missing what they're missing, you know, you will struggle 100%. But just find there's a little bit of complacency coming in, and I just think Tuchel would want to just, you know, kind of get the iron fist out again and start banging the table and get everybody's attention again. So they go, you know, like. There's a couple of boys in that squad. I know Ian's spoken about it recently. The boy Ziyech, obviously he's not a massive fan of him at times. Pulisic, I know he's mentioned, needs to get the finger out. He basically told us he'd given up on Werner, and now, you know, you've got Lukaku who's struggling, really, really struggling. You know, so it's all good having this embarrassment of riches, but, you know, the embarrassment of riches, they have to shine. That gold has to look nice and shiny, you know what I mean? And it's not quite looking that way at the minute.
Yeah, there seems to be a drop off in maybe that competitive nature for places. And I think, to be honest with you, a lot of it is driven by the volume of injuries that they have. I think if those boys that are injured were back there, is when there'd be a huge competition there for places. And I think, I don't know, I think when I look at the midfield at Chelsea, I think it's Kante and whoever else. And I think when Kante is not there, it's a kind of a figuring out as to what to do and stuff like that. Now, no disrespect to Jorginho. I'm a huge fan of Jorginho's. I'll put my hand up on that. And he took his 2 penalties really well yesterday. No doubt about it. And he did have to step up to bring the points home, and he did. But I just think with Chelsea, I think I think you're right. There's just that little bit where they're just a touch off at the moment, or they're just a touch not at it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's reflective of the injuries, and maybe it's reflective of, we're Chelsea FC,
There's just a little bit of it, And listen, here's the other thing. Like, I like a little bit of arrogance from teams.
Yeah.
I do like a little bit of arrogance from teams, but I don't like complacency, because the two are different. Knowing you're good, is one thing, but knowing you're good and maybe not putting the work in is another one, because you will get tripped up like that now and again,
Well, you can see with the goals that they're coughing up at the moment. I mean, no one could score against them up till this recent period, and
they
now
look
all
like
of a sudden they're coming in
down.
2s and 3s. Yeah.
Yeah, they look like the shutters down, and now they've shipped 3 at Zenit, 2 at Leeds, who are piss poor, 3 at West Ham. Things are starting to mount.
Yeah, just a little bit of creaking there that needs to be fixed up before February. Let's have a look at Liverpool. Liverpool, of course, glided through the group stage with 2 games to go, finished out with a 100% record. The first time an English club has done that, which I was kind of shocked to hear, really. That's the first time an English club had done it, had a 100% record in the group stages. But fantastic. And again, when we looked at the draw back in August or September, whenever the draw was done, it looked as if we had that group of death, with Atletico, Porto and AC Milan, AC Milan being the bottom end of the group and stuff like that. But little did we know, AC Milan were so falling off in terms of quality and in terms of their play, But Liverpool at the moment, potentially PSG, Sporting, Inter, Benfica, Villarreal and Salzburg. I don't think anyone is going to want Liverpool in the draw tomorrow. Do you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think if I was one of those teams, Liverpool would be the one over 2 legs I would want to avoid the most. And I have said this to you. Recently. I think Liverpool's, big chance to lose this trophy is a final, because I think over 2 legs they're going to be very, very tough to beat. I would see them going very, very far in this. But I think you can get Liverpool on a slightly off day. You can get anyone on an off day. I just think that would be our hope as another team. If it was a one-off game, I think teams would fancy themselves a little bit more. But on a 2-legged affair, I would think they'd go, you know what? It's gonna be tough,
Yeah, I mean, no one, especially the trip to Anfield, is always very tough on those European nights.
Absolutely.
So I suppose, being selfish, probably from a Liverpool fan, I'd like Liverpool to get Salzburg. I'd like Chelsea to get Bayern. I'd like City to get Atletico, and I'd like you to get PSG. Now, that to me would be the perfect draw.
Can we swap and have Atletico?
You can, but then we're giving City a bit of a pass. It's Sporting, Inter, Benfica, Villarreal and Salzburg.
Yeah, we give them Villarreal or something. See if our friend Good Evening could do us a little favour,
Yeah, I mean, certainly he's a kind of a dark horse one to watch in this as well, isn't he? Because he's a fantastic tactician over 2 legs as well, and Villarreal's a tough place to go. And they did come through the group. In the end, I know they had to play a day later; it was postponed. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? And I suppose that the deeper we go into this tournament, the more congestion we get fixture wise in terms of, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, League. Like, if you're fighting on all fronts, you're getting fixtures at you every 3 days. So you basically don't even have time to train. You're really only coming down off a match and you're prepping for the next one. Which I find for Liverpool as well, I think is normally great, because the busier we are, the better we tend to be in terms of the run.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I know I've told you already privately, so I can let our viewers know on it. My eldest son is 14, and for the longest time, Atletico have always kind of been a second team. He wouldn't be a big Barca fan, wouldn't be a big Real fan, but he would have always kind of had a little place in his heart for Atletico Madrid. Really, really strange, but that was his thing, we went on holiday one year and he wanted a jersey and he got it, and all of a sudden he was at home playing games and picking Atletico players and blah, blah, So I'm hoping that we can get Atletico in the draw and that might tick a box for a Christmas present as well. You know, get him over to the to United and Atletico. That'd be high up on his bucket list, I think.
This will be hurting for you as a Man United fan if you have to get him a Suarez jersey.
Yeah, I definitely won't have to get my Suarez jersey. he'll have his Ronaldo jersey on, you know. But he'll be excited to see them, you know. But
that'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
Selfishly, that's what I'm hoping for. Okay. You know.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be an easy one either. That'd be a good competitive one, Simeone versus Rangnick.
Yeah, that'd be tough. But again, I think United need tough. I think when United get bog standard, you know, run of the mill games, that's when we can trip up. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, let's remind our viewers again, 11 a.m. tomorrow, Monday morning, they will be covering the Champions League draw live on YouTube from the podcast. Thanks for joining us on this show. Of course, leave your comments on the episode. Let us know who your team is and who you want to be drawn against, and we will hit you tomorrow in the chat. No doubt Darren will be absolutely blistering lads in that chat all through the show. This has been the Upper Tier, our look at the Champions League draw round of 16. Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube for the video versions of the show, Spotify for the audio version show, and we will chat to you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Cheers, bud.
Take it easy, pal.